Hello, this is Ritika, and you are here with me on OOZ Global. And today we have an automotive enthusiast turned journalist and the director of Adil's AutoZone, Mr. Adil Jal Darukhanawala, with us. Hello, Adil ji, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Ritika. Good to see you and also hear you for the first time properly.
Thank you so much, sir. So, first of all, why did you choose this specific field of auto journalism, and how difficult was it for you to proceed with this idea of automobiles?
Well, first, let me shatter this myth. I did not choose it. It was always there for me to take it. For the simple reason that I was born on a probably with a motorcycle just next to my mommy. So, from day one of my life, I have been surrounded by motorcycles and cars. And it was logical that I played with a lot of them right from, I remember, 3 years or 4 years. I've got photographs of me and my dad's daughter and all that. And so there were too many cars and bikes in the family. So, and for a kid in the early 60s, the sound of the cars and the bikes was much more melodious than what you get today. So I think
Definitely.
a lot of things turned. And I'm a qualified mechanical engineer. I never what you call did automotive journalism. I'm an enthusiast who knows how to write well about cars. I hate the word journalist because of too many ridiculous connotations in India. So I'd
Yeah,
rather be an automotive enthusiast who loves how to write and convey the message. That's what I am. And yes, how difficult was it? From a perspective of writing about cars and bikes, it was not difficult. Trying to get someone on the other side of the fence means the publisher, the editors, everywhere else to at least think about doing something on cars and bikes in the newspapers or something. That was rather difficult because
hmm.
on 26th of August this year, I'll be completing 45 years because 26th of August 1977, I wrote my first piece which came in a newspaper. So it was very different than at least that newspaper people, those newspaper guys who were there, they understood and appreciated. And thankfully, because I was in Pune, and Pune was the hub of the Indian motorsport world. So
Hmm.
people knew about that, but there was nothing, no one was being upfront and writing about that. So for them also, they saw that yes, this could be something great. And 26th of August 1977, I wrote my first piece. The next day, the monster was created, and this monster has stayed put true to his thing till all these days now.
So, as you said that on 26th August, you will be completing 45 years in this field. So, it's actually great to connect with you during this month of August, I think.
Yeah, well, it's just coincidence. I never
Yeah.
planned it.
First of all, congratulations for that. And since you are in this field since last 3 to 4 decades, so what do you think?
Hmm.
How did this field has evolved? Like, what evolution has auto
Yeah,
journalism or automotive industry has faced?
yeah. So both the things, there are two separate aspects: the industry and the market as one, and the journalism side as one. So first and foremost, for the automotive journalism side, there is no curriculum anywhere even now to get anyone to study or graduate as an automotive journalist even
Yeah,
till
I
today.
completely agree to this. Yeah.
Okay, so that is number one. So it was even worse off at that time because there were no magazines, no nothing was done in India. And I was fortunate that we used to get magazines from overseas at our house and whatnot because it, like many Parsis, we were totally of the mind that yes, we love cars, we love bikes, we love to what you call get our hands dirty, strip it off, put it back together, tune our own cars and bikes. It was a simpler world technologically also at that time, so it all helped. So I started writing for the Pune Herald newspaper, which later became the Maharashtra Herald newspaper. And then gradually, and it was all began with motor racing, with motorsport. But then, as the Himalayan Rally came in 1980, and it started covering that for not just for the Maharashtra newspaper, but also for a lot of magazines like Sports Week and The Sun, and a lot of foreign magazines, because there was no one from India who was writing. So what was there? The Himalayan Rally, yes, used to be covered by newspapers, but from a sporting aspect, it would come as a small 2 or 3 inch column inch story in a mainstream newspaper hidden somewhere. Whereas I was looking out for giving motorsport and the people who do motorsport a thing away from just the normal coverage. We needed to inform, educate, and entertain them. So that is what was my scope. And magazines like the Sports Week, the Sun magazine, which I don't think is anyway. Both these magazines are not in existence now, but they were the standard bearers of their field in the 70s and 80s. So it was great. Then I wrote a lot for foreign publications and all that. As we culminated in that, the first magazine, an enthusiast magazine, was an opportunity to give Indians a publication where they would enjoy. Sure, there were automotive magazines in India before, but they were all trade journals. They would be for the dealer trade, for the accessory trade, people selling tires and oil. So that would be in the automotive industry fraternity. It was never
Yeah.
there for the consumer or to the enthusiast. So my first magazine, which I started, it was my uncle bankrolled me. Car and Bike International. We started in June '87, and that was pure play enthusiast stuff. We wanted. I, being an enthusiast myself, could not dream about anything else. And as we had seen elsewhere in the world, all magazines started with sport, motorsport, and then carried on to the consumers. So that is how we began with Car and Bike International. There was another magazine which was trying to balance both the trade as well as a little bit of consumerism. It didn't last long. And then there was another magazine which came on and they borrowed from our template, and they did very well as well. They had money, we had no money, we had more passion than money. And I did Car and Bike International from June '87 to June 1998. Those were the best years of my life because we learned everything, how to do things with as less money as possible, but more passion and enthusiasm than anything else. So this was how the first phase of my journalistic career, also rather magazine career, was there. At the same time, it also helped that earlier India only had 3 cars and 4.5 motorcycles, so to speak. Ambassador, Premier, and Standard, and the Mahindra Jeep, and you had the Rajdoot, the Bullet, and the Java, and the Bajaj scooters. My mommy asked me one very pertinent question in '87. I said, Adil, you want to do a magazine and you have only got so many vehicles. What are you going to write every month? She was surprised when we started doing all that stuff. Sorry. But then in the mid '80s, the government of India finally liberalized a certain amount of the automotive world. So we had not just Maruti Udyog come in, we also had the 100cc Indo-Japanese motorcycles come in. We had the Indo-Jap LCVs come in. So all of a sudden, you had big names coming into the country on our roads. You had Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki. You had Vespa, which came back again. We had Suzuki, of course. We had even with Premier and with Hindustan Motors, we got new names from abroad. So then suddenly it mushroomed. So you had a lot to write about of the present things. One thing I must tell you, at that time, none of the manufacturers liked us. Why? Because they had never experienced someone who would tell them, this is good, but all these things are bad on your cars or bikes. They were not what we call used to being told that they were bad. And we said that, of course, we suffered quite a lot in the initial stage. First 6, 7 years, we were shunned by the things because, but they could not ever sue us because whatever we wrote was correct. They were angry and upset of us telling the truth. But that is one of the key reasons why we succeeded and worked on for 11 years that way. So India was different in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It started changing in the mid 80s onwards. Then 1993, 94, the major liberalization took place and then the floodgates opened. What we saw also, what I always felt, that India, the socialist aspect of things by our Indian government after independence had really put the brakes on innovation, on enterprise. India could have prospered and gone still further on, but the government said, you will only make 5,000 scooters a year. If you, I've got records where companies like Bajaj Auto, even Tata Motors, Telco as Tata Motors was earlier known, they were fined for making some 50, 60 scooters more or some 80, 100 trucks more. So this was a sort of a ridiculous notion in our socialist way of life. It really penalized a lot of people. Thankfully, we gave away, I think, 30, 40 years to the Japanese and the Koreans. We could have definitely been as enterprising if we had that thing at that time. But well, better late than never. And in
Yes, of course.
97, 97 end, uh, I got a feeler from Tata Infomedia saying they wanted to do one hell of a top-notch car magazine, and would I be interested? I spoke to three of my partners. Two of them were at that time just going terminally ill, so they wanted to cash out their shareholdings. Our fourth partner was there. He thought that he wanted to be the next publishing giant in India. So I said, you pay off my other two partners, and I'll give you my share for free, and I will go off to Tata Infomedia. Well, that's what happened, and I joined Tata Infomedia in June '98, and we created history from day one. I conceptualized probably the one magazine the country has now templatized every other magazine which has come in after that, and that magazine was Overdrive. I created Overdrive magazine. We were up and running on September '98 issue, which came in 10 days ahead of 1st September. We came in early in late August, and we kept this thing. Earlier in India, magazine would never come on time. They would A month's magazine would come anytime between the 1st and the 30th of the month. We used to come 10 days before the start of the month. It was different, and Overdrive magazine remains to this day the template for the automotive world. It's a different thing that I left Overdrive because the Tata sold off that company to a venture capitalist. But still, it did very well for the next 8, 10 years. I don't know about it right now because I see it's a very pale shadow of its former self. But there is still a lot of potential in that, and it's a great brand name.
So you talked about sports magazines and newspapers. So you yourself have been associated with such big brands of automotive magazines, big names. So why did you choose the print media to start with, and how had been your journey with the same?
At that time, there was only print. There was nothing, no internet. Thank God for that. No television, no radio. It was print, and that was what. And I still say, print is the defining word in everything. My two sons who are also in the same field don't agree with me because they are born from another generation. Uh, I'm old-fashioned maybe, but having started Zig Wheels for the Times of India, that also was my baby, completely conceptualized across over there. And we went there in every aspect. We went print, we went digital, web, television, events, etc., everything. We found out in our early days in the internet thing that 90% of the stuff on the internet was all crap and false. Basically, false. Just because someone had got an opportunity to put something. So there was no authenticity to it. Number one. Number two, we had the domain knowledge. The other guys who were there didn't have a domain knowledge. They had only got a laptop or a computer which they could what you call talk themselves as great experts. So that is something came as a big shock, but not to me in that way. So what we did at Zigwheels was adapted as much of the long form to the internet's needs, the way it was packaged. And within, I think, about 3 or 4 months from the time of launch, Zigwheels became the number one portal for automotive news and information, not just in India, but in Southeast Asia. And more importantly, within, I think, about a year and a half, we were the third ranked portal in the country across every genre. The first was timesofindia.com, then was et.com, and then there was zigwheels.com. No one else came
That's
close,
great.
not HT, not Hindu, no one means no one. So this is where I think, like I said, we brought all our experience of print to bear to give authentic stuff. And that is what you have to be authentic. If you are not authentic, then today I see people who come to press conferences for a media launch and they have already road tested the car sitting in the media section and given the full views of the car without even having touched it, just seen it. That sort of journalism is not for us
Yeah,
and
definitely.
never has been for us.
So you said that you always used to review a vehicle with full honesty and even along with the followed by a criticism. So what features and factors you always look forwarded to in an automobile while reviewing the same?
Yeah, first thing is in those days, early days, bikes used to come. It was a seller's market. It was never a buyer's market because the government always used to say, you're only going to make so much and not more. So that
Hmm.
in itself fostered a gray market or a black market across. Uh, Everyone slams Bajaj Auto for the Chetak and the Super having 15 and 18-year waiting list. It was not Bajaj Auto's fault. It was the government's fault, which said only do so many units a year. And people used to what you call. So I remember in those days, when a child was born, the father would go and put 500 rupees and book a Bajaj scooter, knowing well when the kid would be about 15, 16 years, the booking would materialize and the scooter would be there. It was a wholly unheard of thing anywhere else in the world. So when you are looking at that, and then like I told you, manufacturer didn't want to do anything with us because he called a spade a spade. So we would tell them because in those days manufacturers were not utterly to blame also because again there also the Indian government would say manufacturers you do this but for some other parts of the vehicle you have to go in the small scale sector. At that time the small scale sector is what MSMEs are today. In that bulbs, cables, the things which would be the worst sort of element which would break down in a vehicle were those, and they were all made by the SSI. And the SSI sector was not technologically driven. It was driven by, for want of a better word, businessmen who saw that they could do the cheapest sort of product, which will work for a month or so, and then it go and then again back in the business they would have to buy a similar thing, and it will keep on going. The cycle would keep on repeating itself. This is the one thing which we spoke about and we spoke about rather well. Just tell me one thing. I'm going from Pune to Bombay on my motorcycle, and in the middle of nowhere, my front cable or my clutch cable used to break. Did they expect me to shower them a lot of jubilation words and what a great job you've done? It was human nature, and we used to tell them that this is not on, and they didn't like to be told that it was not on. So that was one aspect of things which we would always see in the early stage. That was about not about design defect; it was quality defect. We used to see a vehicle and say how good it was to run in the city, on the highways. Was it comfortable? Was it safe? Would the if when you put the brake lever on, did it stop or it still went on? So these sort of things, and those were very old style automobiles we had in our country. Maruti and the 100cc Indo-Japanese motorcycles changed the perception. Then they became better and better and better. Today, no one makes a bad car or a bike. And so now the thing is that what earlier we had an issue about how to look at those 3, 4, 5 models. Today we have an issue of saying from the good, which is the great.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
how the things have changed. And honestly speaking, today it's a buyer's market. And you cannot even have a thing where a person walks into a showroom, and if he is not treated well by the salesman or the saleswoman over there, and she or he shows disinterest in explaining the features of a car to the potential buyer, that man is not going to, he says he's going to vote with his wallet. He says, I'm
Hmm.
walking out of here, I'm going to the next showroom, and that's how it is. So it's now no longer the product per se, but the entire ecosystem around the product is what you sell. And we try and talk about all these things.
So, like you said, that India couldn't contribute much in the like earlier after the independence for the automotive industry. But now many brands
Yeah.
are coming up with their autonomous vehicles, self-driven and electric vehicles. So, do you think will India be able to like move forward with this easily with this new idea?
You have touched a very raw nerve. I don't like both these sort of vehicles, not the autonomous, not the electric. Okay, and I'll explain why. Let's talk electric first. There's no doubt that electric cars have a certain very good appeal to a lot of people who are conscious about environment and all that. But that is only because they are misinformed. The
Hmm.
battery's life and the battery recycling is as much of an ecological danger as the internal combustion engine. So I don't know
Exactly.
what everyone is talking about. Second thing about electric vehicles, forget about the range anxiety. They say that they'll do 300 kilometers, but I know that they will do only 150, whatever that thing, because practically we have experienced that thing. So range anxiety is a very big thing. And second is charging times. I want to go from here to Bombay in an electric car. They say it'll give you 350 kilometers. It'll give me 160 to go to Bombay, and Bombay is 160 kilometers. Then do I have to wait 7, 8 hours to charge up for to again come back to Pune with that? It's not practical. So that technology per se is still not there for India. It's a costly technology, mind you. Don't just go across the fact that, oh, electricity consumes only so much. That's the biggest, what you call, lie which has been peddled. So one thing is that, so yes, unless and until they link this, and the most important thing which I have against electromobility in this country, even today, in the national capital in Delhi or Pune or anything, we have got power cuts. Where
Hmm.
is the power going to come for electromobility when it is not there for domestic use?
Definitely.
You have to start thinking like that. Second thing, petrol has got a large, over half of it, half of the price of a liter of petrol or diesel goes by way of tax. More than half, 60% goes that way. Do you mean to say the government will be so generous with electricity for domestic purpose, for electromobility, and not take its big cut across over there? It's coming. So let's not be seduced by the fact that electric cars will be the end all and be all. So this is one thing about electric cars, which is very much there, right in the open. Autonomous cars, they'll never work in India. You have sacred cows working in, jaywalkers coming in, cyclists coming in. So the car will not move only across over there with all these things. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that both these things for me are a big no-no.
And even considering the roads in India, it's almost next to impossible to work with electric or just self-driven vehicles.
No, the roads, so any which way we are, what you call, that's the reason, one of the reasons why SUVs are the largest selling cars in the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You need tough. And in fact, even if you make a good road, if you make, the word is if one makes a good road, in India, digging is a national pastime. So as soon as the road is made, some of the other government department will dig it up to lay a pipe or draw some water pipes or some electricity thing. So it is ridiculous to say the least. There's no planning, and honestly speaking, in the towns at least the roads have been what you call destroyed in their entirety.
Yeah, I completely agree to your point as well. So, like moving forward, so coming to the design features, every automobile has got its unique
Hmm?
design and color. So, how important do you think is a design feature for a vehicle?
Ritika, let me tell you one thing. You go
Yes.
to a movie and you see a hero or a heroine, and you look at what you find, you feast your eyes on that person. So what is it? Same thing applies to a car or a bike. Your first look on that vehicle is really what makes you think that should I consider it and have a closer look. Okay, design, and I'm saying design is critical, the most critical aspect towards buying a car first. Of course, after that, once your heart has soaked that in, then the mind comes in. The mind can never come in because it doesn't know what it is seeing. That is
Mm-hmm.
how why I say always I say paramount. Great design is very very important, and the most critical element if you have if the manufacturer has to sell it, you have to have a good looking car or a great looking motorcycle. It's that way.
So, I think like it's a 50-50 work of a great design and great feature, like great internal features as well.
No, what I'm saying, uh, it need not be that way. The first thing is to, if you want to, everyone knows Toyota makes great cars, very reliable, etc. But they don't look good, and great cars don't get sold then.
Huh, yeah, yeah.
So you need to have a thing which the car looks great, the product looks great, it's packaged well, and then you what you call go to see that thing. I've seen why the Korean cars so successful. They are packaged very well. They are really
Hmm.
packaged well, and the equivalent German cars are not packaged well. They are good driver, they're good cars for the families, cars, etc. But they don't get sold. So this is where the conundrum.
Yeah, so as we talked about design features, so many companies are setting up their independent design studios in India. So, in like according to your opinion, in what way will it benefit the automotive industry?
Yeah, Ritika, design is an intrinsic function of any auto manufacturer. Indian manufacturers woke up late to it because they said design and style is a very, it is not for India is being is a country where the male chauvinistic pig sort of approach is so prevalent. And they thought that any good looking design means it was effeminate, which was so wrong. And I think it took time for many foreign manufacturers to come in and to what you call ingrain themselves in the minds of consumers that a good looking car or a good looking bike need not be the preserve only of a foreign company or anything. And when you have guys like Bajaj Auto and Tata Motors who really invested not just in engineering but also in great design and setting up their own studios. And once the writing was on the wall, every car company, every bike maker in India had to have a dedicated approach to design, which was their own, not some million miles away from India. And like I said very clearly, if you see on a pyramid where the project cost for a model are there, the tiniest bit of the top of the pyramid is the only investment you make on design for a product. But for that base of the pyramid where the investments are huge, for those things to get return, that top of the pyramid is so very vital. If it doesn't shine there, everything else low down gets butchered and you'll never make money. So I think that from so many angles, great design is a prerequisite of any product and in any field, mind you.
Yeah, I completely agree to what you said. And with this, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining with us. It was really
But
a very informative session. Thank you so much.
thank you, Ritika, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much. So this was Mr. Adil Jal Darukhanawala with us. I'll be back with some more informative sessions with you. Till then, this is Ritika signing off. Stay connected with OOZ Global.